So recently I worked at DFW as a Q engineer, and now I work in research now as a Q engineer.
Recently, as of last week.
Yeah.
So you're still allowed to come here for like a threshold of 2 weeks. I think.
Right, and I get escalated out.
Yes.
You work here?
I did, and then I recently changed jobs. So I was doing manual testing before testing, I guess. And now I do sort of a mixture of manual.
Hi, I'm Sophie. I don't work here. I'm the HR manager. Our office is really close to the record. And I'm just really interested in the QA. And actually, we told me.
Cool. I'm Cynthia Bain. I currently do work at DealerTrack. I just took Brendan's job.
By force.
So thank you, Brandon.
I'm only saying that to be funny, but no. But yes, I do work here. I'm quality assurance. Been in the field for a number of years. I enjoyed the last meetup, so I'm excited to take part in the activity we're going to do today.
My name is Bennett Chandler. I work as a consultant in Ericsson. And I do system verification for a product that Ericsson sells to the
My name is Ahmad Sheikh. I'm a resource manager for a company called Cubic Technologies. I have some IT experience. I did some testing a long time ago, or a couple of years ago, and I'm just trying to get back into the field now.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, so I think we chatted on Meetup yesterday, right? Cool. Glad you came. Thanks.
My name is Doug Boone. I'm a team lead for Walters Tour Tax. We do tax compliance. We've got 3 teams. We're expanding here in the area. It's a busy time of the year for us, but
Yeah.
there's a new group, and I wanted to find out what it is. See if I can get my people to come over here and
Be
be
awesome.
active.
Awesome.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We're trying to get people to different areas, host different places. If we can do that too, that'd be great. So I don't want everyone to have to drive here if they're far away. So I'm Connor Roberts. I work for DealerTrack, which is now a Cox Automotive company. So I think in November we went from 4,500 people to 24,000. So Cox owns like Auto Trader and Kelley Blue Book and all that. So DealerTrack was doing end-to-end car buying process for dealerships across the nation and Canada mainly, some Europe, but not much. And so I am a manager in the quality office, and our job, we like to tell people the quality office shouldn't exist because our job is to espouse good practices, good testing practices, and getting people to embrace context rather than standards. That we don't believe standards work in every situation. I think context matters. So what might work in one office won't work in another, or for one product might not work for another product. So we're context-driven testers, which is one of the testing schools of thought that Brandon alluded to earlier. And so it's just me and one other guy, Brian, my boss, in the quality office, and we try to push information across the whole company, but it's hard with 2 people. 2 people doesn't scale. So our objective is to try to get leads and seniors and people like that espousing this stuff so that, they sort of do the work for the team. All right. Well, I guess Jasmine is busy or otherwise occupied. But I'll bring up the meetup. This is upcoming is right now. So the meetup that we were going to do tonight, last time we talked about testing, we talked about sort of everybody's different products and how they test and what kinds of tools they use and all that. We talked about the context-driven approach. We went over, just real briefly, I'll bring this up. We sort of talked about what drives us here in the Dallas office in Vermont, DealerTrack. We try to espouse sort of these basic principles from the context-driven testing school, which is, again, there's no best practices. There's good practices that work in certain situations. The value of any practice depends on its context. So to say that, for example, I have a checklist that would work across any and all product lines is, we consider that to be somewhat, that would be like an unstudied sort of statement. It's like I haven't gone to our Vermont office to see what they do, so I can't say that what we do here would 100% work there. People working together is the most important part because testing is all about learning, and we believe that talking to people, getting that information makes you a better tester because our whole job as testers is to inform and expose risks. It's hard to do that when you just keep to yourself. Projects unfold over time. That's not necessarily a CDT, unique to CDT. That's sort of just a general truth. And many times we can't predict how they're going to unfold. So we have to pivot and flex based on that. Good software testing is a challenge, an intellectual process. So we value critical thinking over checklists, and then judgment, skill, cooperative exercises, things like that. So, yes.
Did you add this in the previous?
Yeah, we talked about this in the previous one, but now that we have that resources page, what I'll do is I'll sort of put what sort of all the big, like, we have a lot of stuff in our internal site here. Some helpful links over here. So context-driven testing is one. James and Michael's blogs are one. The Association for Software Testers is the context-driven School of Thought Association, and they host like conferences every year. And then Ministry of Testing is a great resource if you want to do. There's a whole lot of webinars they host and master classes and things like that. So yeah, I'll put all of these on the Meetup page. I need to spend a little more time on the Meetup page. I haven't given it a lot of TLC. So anyway, so we talked about that last time. We also talked about the main objective that we believe purpose of testing is this quote up here from James. I'll just read it. He says, our purpose of testing is to cast light on the status of the product and its context in the service of our stakeholders, which sounds very generic, but sort of everything we do as testers we feel should roll up to that. So, for example, the converse of that would be, or something that would conflict with that would be the mindset of I am the gatekeeper. Like I say final yes or no if something goes live, or I say if something's passed or failed 100% if it's ready for production, because we believe that lies in the product manager's hand and product owner's hands. It's our job to expose what could go wrong and what the risks are and what we feel is important. But at the end of the day, it's the product owner's call if something's going to go live or not.
So I've seen that quote like 3 million times.
Billion
now.
times.
I just read it a different way, like literally just now.
Hey, proof that you can learn something new every day.
Yeah, I've always read it as to cast light on the status of the product and its context in the service of our stakeholders.
As opposed to
cast light on the status of the product and its context in the service of our stakeholders,
okay.
Which is.
I've always read it the first way, so.
I think it actually makes more sense the second way now that I think about it.
Maybe. As long as you sort of understand the idea is we're the lighthouse. That's what James Bach likes to say, we're the lighthouse. So the ships coming to the shore are the clients or the stakeholders. And it's our job to go, hey, there's something in your path. Do you care enough about it to move? And if you don't, that's okay because you're the client. It's your job to say, no, I want the dancing bunny on our site at Easter, even though it's atrocious and it looks awful and it makes the UI of the site terrible because I'm the client and I still want it. Well, as testers, it's our job to say there might be some risks and that might lower your revenue. Some people might not like using your site. But at the end of the day, the product owner and the client says we want it, so we push it out. So that's where we part ways from some of the legacy testing mindset is we don't believe that the tester just puts their foot down and says no. We believe the tester says, I don't believe it's a good idea maybe. But once you've said that and the product owner gets it, the product owner still decides to push forward, then that's where sort of our authority ends.
I like the quote that, I can't remember which one said it, but it's, the product owner makes the decision and has to stay up at night, and we're the ones who get to like
Yeah,
tell them about the problems, and we get to sleep.
yeah.
Because they can worry about whether or not to move forward.
Rest or get.
Oh my gosh, it'll figure it out. Here we go. This is the right one. Google has trained me for typos because it knows what I mean. All right. So this is a great link. This is another link that I'll stick on the resources page. This is exactly what we talked about. It's about QA is actually a misnomer. We're not quality assurers because the job of the business is to assure the quality. Our job is to test it and expose the risks and talk about the status of the product and where it's broken, and then get the POs then to take action. So whatever action they believe, because basically the TLDR of this whole article is a single tester on a team or even within a release train. Let's say you're in an architect role, testing architect role, doesn't have all the full view of what the business implications are. Like I, as a tester on a team, have no idea what the revenue numbers are versus the last time we released this feature, what the revenue numbers are. Like maybe our last release that I thought was amazing actually dipped our revenue. Like I thought it was an amazing feature, but the clients didn't like it, or the way we implemented it wasn't, congruent with what their expectations were. So the whole idea here with Michael's article here is that we're not sort of the be end all of the product. So we need to realize that. So it's another article that I'll post. These guys fly all over the world. So you'll see his calendar here on the right. So he's going all over the world to do these conferences, and he's one of the smartest dudes.
I was going to say pretty much anything on that blog, by the way. Like, if you're interested in learning about software testing, I recommend just going to, this one is developed since Satisfice is another one. Yeah. Both of those, just go and click on a random article.
Read it.
And just read it. You can do that, pretty much every day there's a ton of stuff on there. Yeah, James Bach is
So James Bach and Michael Bolton, not the singer, Michael Bolton, the tester, used to be developers. So they come from a development background, and in the 80s and 90s, they moved over into testing because they thought that the testing craft was in a state of disrepair, which it still is, in my opinion. There's so many things that people say, like automation can fix all our problems, and that are just inaccurate and ignore context. So they're working hard every day to basically consult businesses and do training classes on a lot of this content that we're talking about. So, yeah, you had a question?
I was just going to say that is it easier to have the QA department as an external of the company or in-house? Is it easier to have it in-house or external?
I don't know.
That, I think, really depends on your product and your business model and all sorts of stuff. I can definitely see situations where an external, contracting out to a testing,
like U-Test or something like that.
Consulting group. That's what I was looking for. Would be beneficial. But there are also benefits to having an in-house testing group as well.
But even an external department, you're talking about QAs over here in an area and developers over here, not Scrum Agile or.
No, I meant not related to the company.
Oh, so external?
Yeah.
Okay, then yeah.
The contractors. There are definitely situations where that's useful. The biggest one that comes to mind is legal situations where there may be questions about
privacy or bias.
Privacy bias issues where a software manufacturer is getting sued because their product doesn't meet contractual obligations. A lot of times lawyers hire testers.
And also, I can't claim to be a context-driven tester and say, no, there's no cases where an external QA team is better or worse. There might be cases where it blows Scrum teams out of the water. And there might be a lot of cases where integrated Scrum teams where people are constantly working together is better. So it really depends on the product. It depends on the clientele, the stakeholders. I mean, if you've got very, very few stakeholders, then there's only one or two people calling the shots. It's a tiny product, or there's a small demographic of people that make decisions. Then it may not even matter what you do. Right? There's so many variables that, again, I can't go to a standard and go, yes, you should always do this or that.
I mean, there's options like dog fooding too, which makes sense for maybe when Facebook is rolling out their stuff, which is something that people will almost instinctually use every day, or Microsoft for some of their products, they'll roll it out internally only because these are products that their employees would naturally use in a normal way, just like their users would. But that same test philosophy wouldn't work for us here, where what we make our stuff for car dealerships.
Some of
I
it,
am not a
yeah.
car dealership.
So like we have a product in New York that does user testing. So they do have a UAT environment where they put it out there for 2 weeks, and Honda hits it with all the people and ideas that they can hit it at, and then we do a release. So that makes sense for some products, but not others.
You know, my experience with that in the past is that you generally have someone internal already in, you know, the quality group, putting together a plan that is then communicated to the external testing group to execute.
Well, and in some cases, if you look even at one thing that we've talked about was sort of the test summary for that was unsatisfied. I think it was James Bach, and that was for the medical device. And essentially, the point being, I took it as a really good example of a very concise and informative test summary. But this is an example of a external resource coming in, looking at something that they have. They've had teams of testers working on this product, but with a complete with no context really passed along to them. It was like they came in, set up shop, asked a bunch of questions, gained their own context of the product. Sometimes you don't have the time and money for that. But when you have very experienced testers come in and do that, they expose things that the established crew just was going to miss based on comfort levels probably with the product. So I think in those cases, it may be very beneficial to have a team of people that come in and shape things up a little bit.
Fresh perspective, yeah.
But either way, if that document is not up there, that's a great link to look at something.
Sure, yeah. If you find it, shoot it to me, and I'll add it. All right, so we were just trying to summarize last week. We will move on into the exercise. So the exercise this week, tell me I didn't close it. All right. I know I've got.
Use the travel site.
We were going to do that, and they didn't show up today. So I feel if we're going to do a collective test strategy, we should do it on something that either we have people here that have knowledge, or something that's shared that we may all have knowledge with, like an Amazon.com or eBay.com or something. I don't use eBay that much anymore, so maybe. What? There's a tool that James uses in his RST class, and I'm not a big fan of it. I feel like everyone's familiar with Raw. I mean, Amazon, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could do Raw, but I'm just not a fan of it.
Yeah, it is very discreet and small, unlike Amazon.
It is discreet and small. You're right.
You just need a public site.
Well, we need honestly, now that you've convinced me. So there's a tool called Raw that is a very simplistic data processing tool that creates infographics.
Data visualizations.
Data visualizations, which I don't know if I've still got it. I don't know if I still have it in my.
That's it.
This one right here. Problem is, I don't know if everybody's got a computer to see this tool, or if the device you have will actually render this correctly.
It does not work on mobile, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so I mean, if we think about something that we already are familiar with, like Amazon, then maybe we'll.
Well, you can always specify one specific piece of Amazon's functionality, right? Shopping cart,
Sure.
something.
Search feature, whatever.
Search feature.
So to high level it here, the whole idea that we're doing with this exercise is taking a product, creating a test strategy, and you can use mind mapping software, you can use outline format, whatever you think is beneficial to your learning style.
I downloaded
Xmind, great. Yeah, excellent. Oh, awesome. So
I don't have access to that.
yeah, we'll split the computers up between teams so that everybody doesn't have all the power in one team.
I can go get my laptop. It's upstairs.
Okay, that'd be cool. So the whole idea here is, I'll explain it while Jasmine's doing that. You want to use HTSM, which is the heuristic test strategy model we talked about last time, to come up with testing priorities, and also within those priorities, what would you test? So for example, this is something that Brian Kurtz did when he was in the RST, one of James Bach's classes. He came up with this was a word processor they were testing. So think of like Microsoft Word or WordPerfect or whatever. He prioritized everything 1, 2, and 3. 1 is I'm going to test it a lot. 2 is I'm going to test it a little, and 3 is I might not spend any time testing, or I'll spend very little time testing. And there's even a key, I think, over here. So this is high risk, normal risk, low risk. And the whole idea here is we're creating an artifact that's visual that informs our product management, rather than saying, when they ask how did you test it, they have to. We can't say go read all our test cases. That's not. Number one, it's not nice. I would never tell a product owner to go read my test cases because it's a pain in the butt to read 20, 100, whatever you have. They're also not going to get a holistic view of how you approached it. So with a test strategy, I can look at a node over here and get an idea that you're going to explore all the GUI elements. You're going to explore the API, or you at least have a question about it, and you're not sure how much to test that. Command line interfaces, that's a question. I need to go ask a developer or somebody about it. So I can look at this and in 10 seconds know that you're going to test, okay, all of these things and anything else that might be under these. Like these aren't expanded, but I assume when you put menu bar, right, you're not writing a scripted test case. You're basically saying, I'm going to test this area of the product. So it's a much more high level, less detailed view because it's a test strategy. It's not a test case.
But before you build this model, you need to have some requirements, or you just do it based on.
So we're doing it based on if we were the tester and what the product we choose. So let's say it's raw, right? If we're going to use the computers. This is basically all we've told you is this is a tool that allows for users to create infographics. So you put data in here, there's sample data. You scroll down, it says what kind of chart do you want to generate. And then within those charts, using lazy loading, I should have scrolled down earlier, but and then it's saying how do you want to categorize that data. So I'm just doing a quick sanity check. And then it gives an output, which is terrible. Like that's an awful output in my opinion, because I use probably the wrong, like let's say maybe if I don't do a label, it'll look better. So it's visualizing the data that was in that movie, CSV basically. So, so when we're testing this, we want to come up with ideas of how would we go through it, what would our ideas be about risks, right? And the heuristic test strategy model gives us categories for that. So it might sound a little obscure, but if I bring up the model, it might make a lot more sense. So HTSM is an explicit testing model that James and I think Michael helped modify. Let's look at the partial templates because that's a lot more scaled down. So my two favorite nodes, and they might not be the most important, but I found the most value out of them, are the quality criteria and the test techniques node. And what these do is they talk all about this. The quality criteria is basically the content of the product. So you look at these names here. How capable is it? How reliable is it? Does it handle errors, well without failing? Is it usable, the UX? Charisma is an interesting word. They're using the word charisma as how appealing is the product. So the way that Michael described that once was, does it have the it factor? So is it like, when you look at it, are you kind of like, I don't like how that looks. We need to work on some of the UI. Security, scalability, compatibility. So what I'll do is there's a PDF that explains all of these, and I can put that on the Meetup group so that it's easy. Actually, I think I already did, because HTSM is something we were going to work on. And my Meetup page is gone. Really? No.
I think it's just because you opened something from it.
Probably did. It's no excuse. Bug, no. User error.
I was going to say, I think that bug's between the keyboard.
I think that's pretty normal
Pepcat?
browser behavior.
The browser's doing what it's supposed to.
You need to choose better consistency for your sake.
All right, so before we get too deep, this is the heuristic test strategy model all explained. So what you want to do is look at the quality criteria. Gosh, I should have just printed these out for you guys. The quality criteria tells you sort of what you're going to test, while the test techniques talk about how you're going to test those things. So what we like to do is when we do this exercise is we have people go through and prioritize these super fast, 1, 2, or 3, and Xmind lets you do that with markers. So like let's say I think compatibility and reliability are important, usability is important, but maybe this is a back-end feature, so I'm not going to test Charisma UI as much. Maybe there's no security issues that we know of yet. Scalability is basically, can we add on to it in the future? Can we make it better? Or we're going to have to refactor the whole thing next time we work on it. Compatibility with other parts of the product as well as external products like multiple browsers or other products we have to interact with. So if it's a data-driven thing, can other databases absorb the data? And you just want to go through and prioritize these super fast because you want to spend most of your time on the ones. So I would come back here after I did that, and I would come off of here, and I would say, so like if it were Amazon.com, I would put a note out here that just said search feature. I might test the search feature. And then outside of the search feature, I might say something like, A through C, C through 9, special characters, whatever, right? So that just that's a super brief, that's not a test case. I'm not writing step 1, step 2. I'm just putting a brief idea to give a PO. If the PO looks at this later and goes, okay, I see what you tested, because I get an idea of how you tested it. That's all we're going for. So any questions on sort of how to go through the model?
What template are you using?
I'm going to have to send this to you. Go ahead and give me your email, because if you're going to be one of the group leads, I can give you the Xmind, then you can open that up.
What is the white thing?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
You need internet? Yeah.
Oh, there's the keys.
Yeah, there is a password. Let me,
Do you have it already?
I do have it.
Okay.
I just didn't save it in clear text.
Is it BS Wi-Fi?
No, it's the ATT5.
Yeah.
258.
The building has separate Wi-Fi for the first floor.
There we go.
Something that, speaking of the template, that I've started doing that I think my PO seems to appreciate it at least is on the 3s. I always put a really quick reason why I think I shouldn't test this.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like cause on an application I'm testing right now, we're on one of the very initial iterations of it, and we actually know for a fact based on the way we're doing this that it's not scalable. And so I made sure to mention there we're not doing any sort of load testing or performance testing or anything, because that's not the point of this iteration. So I made sure that was really clearly spelled out, so that later if somebody comes back and says, well, this doesn't do this, I can be, yes, I know.
I like doing that too because it's more of like if someone looks later and they say I put a 3 but there's no note next to it, it's just like, oh no. We gotta finish up some.
I didn't feel like it.
Something else we talked about last time was a lot of testers forget in their test strategy to put what they didn't test. They talk all the time about what they did do, but they don't say, I had a discussion with a developer about X. He decided that wasn't important. And so I put a note on my test strategy that said, here's why we're not going to do it. It's kind of like what Jasmine and Brandon were talking about. Like, put a note that says, here's why we didn't do it. Because that tells the PO that you didn't just not think about it. That tells them you actually thought about it, you had a discussion about it, and you made a conscious decision not to test it.
Especially when you're working in something like a sprint where you're going to have, a really specific limited amount of time for your testing, prioritizing is really important. And you have to be able to say, well, I feel like, there was more risk potential in this area than that area. So I spent more time here and maybe I didn't look over here because we didn't feel it was as risky or whatever.
What do you mean by PO?
Product owner, sorry. I'm just
Yeah,
using
that's
Purchase order.
purchase. Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have clarified.
Stick away from.
Product owner. I should just say everything out every time.
product owner, project, or they're also project managers in some other companies.
That's, yeah. PM could be project manager or product manager. It's so confusing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just say that. All right. So,
business analysts.
what is your email?
Renee, R-E-N-E dot Chandler,
That what?
Chandler, C-H-A-N-D-L-E-R@verizon.com.
Is that 2 C's,
Dot 2S.
2 S? That look good? Okay. So this is a partial template. The master template, I'll go ahead and include the master. Hang on, make sure it's not. Yeah, this is like all the things in HTSM that you could possibly become competent about, which is a lot. So
That's a little.
this is already.
Also appears to be already done.
Yeah, I think I have auto saved.
Over the.
Yeah, saved over the master,
I
which
do it
is
all the time.
just duplicate the file and only open the duplicate.
I started using MindMeister instead.
Yeah, but then you got to pay to share to have collaboration, right?
No. So the deal is with
Or to download
MindMeister
it.
is that you have to pay to either export it in certain formats.
Yeah, export.
Or have more than 3.
That's right.
More than 3 mind maps?
3 mind maps, yeah.
It's a fairly.
But that are like attached to your specific account. But so basically, I
So
paid
one mind
for
map off another mind map off another.
I paid for mine, and I can still share the link to it to the rest of my team, and they can still work on it because it's saved to my account.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm the only person that has to pay for it, but I can still collaborate on these with my team really easily.
Come on.
I should ask if I can get reimbursed for that.
Maybe that was a big file. Seems to be taking a while.
I do everything I can to get away from your roundtables, and I'm still filling out HTSM.
Are you doing it at your new job?
I am, yeah.
Yes. You sharing it with your team yet?
Yes. My team consists of one other person.
Well, hey,
Other QA.
2 is a team. Oh, so you guys are separate from the? It's not like a Scrum setup.
We are. It's just it's very fly by night. We'll put it down.
283K. Come on, that shouldn't have taken that long. So I'm wondering if they're blocking.
PDF document also has it all listed.
It does.
If you want to make your own.
It does. You just have to recreate the structure.
Not that many.
Oh, I heard the noise. Okay, so you should have it in, I guess, in New York and back. Okay, so go ahead and pair into groups. I would recommend you be with Renee's group, right? Would that work? Because you're pretty competent in doing these. And then Jasmine and we'll be over here, I guess. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 groups. I don't think we have enough for more than 2 groups, probably. All right, I will move down. I've got a long enough cable I can move. Ridiculous cable.
Dow proxy.
Are you on DT Team? Don't do DT Team. It doesn't work down here for some reason.
Yeah, it does.
Did you get internet?
Yeah, I'm always on
Okay.
DT when I'm down here.
I can't connect down here for some reason.
Weird.
It lets me log into the proxy and it says you're good, and then I can't get to public sites. Way to go.
So the fun thing with the MindMeister one is that I
I
have
was here,
the
so it started here.
template
You put it
saved,
in the.
and I literally have to duplicate
I'm
it.
sorry.
I've seen them, we've worked on them as a group before.
I'll put it on the meetup. Is it not showing up?
I was trying to
Okay.
just sprint it, didn't have a chance.
Is your Wi-Fi working?
User stories.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
You did? Okay. It might have taken a while. I don't know why it took so long to send. They're small files. But
Did we say what we're doing this over?
yeah, so the raw tool, which is I need to put this link out there too, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm here.
how do you want the team broken
Your
up?
team, I think.
Jasmine will be over here, and then you guys are too. Jasmine, I let Jasmine sit here.
Yeah, I am. Sorry. I was getting
So
I didn't want to move this too far, so she'll sit here.
Rawwhat.com?
It's just, come on, app.raw.designdensity.org.
That says density design.
Densitydesign.org.
I actually read it the exact
It's just,
same way you said it.
isn't that weird? That's something to do with priming or whatever.
Okay, so being not familiar with the categories, I would assume. Here, let me get down here.
Yeah, I mean, probably take 30 because I kind of ate into the time jabbering.
Okay.
Just see, let me see what
Oh, I guess that's probably a good idea, huh? Talking about the categories.
Yeah, so you've already got
Yeah.
a model. Good.
Yeah.
Users.
No,
yeah,
I haven't
it's
used Raw, so
Drainy did.
So, I'm not sure drawing it. But, what I typically do.
So the whole idea with heuristic test strategy model is to basically expose flaws in our
This is more
thinking.
for like when you first.
The whole idea is for us to
start
be professional skeptics, right?
a
So
lot of good stuff.
if I were to not look at the model at all and I were to test this,
Things like.
okay, sounds great. So
That's more
if
like- more,
Yeah.
you know,
If we were, I don't know, I just was pretty confused with it. If we were to test this product without even looking at a model, like just using our knowledge, there's destined to be gaps in our thinking, right? I'm going to miss something. Like, I'm not going to think about claims testing versus functional testing, or what the difference is there, or why that matters.
Scenario versus flow is another one that a lot of people don't
Yeah, a lot of
really.
people get mixed up there.
Like
Like flow testing basically is I'm going through the product, I'm not resetting the cache, I'm not changing it, it's really what a user is going to do. Whereas with scenario testing, I'm going to have A, B, C, D, E steps, reset everything to make sure I'm in a fresh state, A, B, C, D, E steps,
what's the last
reset it.
category?
So, like I might not even think about risk testing, but I might do some of this stuff. A lot of testers do functional testing, but they don't do a lot of this other stuff.
It's not supposed to be like a checklist to go
Yeah.
down.
Connor, did you have consistency?
I added consistency because that's a few hiccups.
Oh.
Model.
So that's, I don't know if that's in scope, but that's.
Don't-
Well,
That's just
This
for me.
is intentional.
But yeah,
So,
so we
like,
could do.
maybe
real quick,
there
we can
is a
take a
problem
peek at what the
where,
we think the program's supposed to do. And then we
you.
can real quick jot through these.
It could be a
and say
problem.
what
You
do
know
we
how
want to focus on.
browsers have a tendency to auto
And then
save
once we
form
kind of
fields
come up
and
with an
stuff
idea,
like that.
kind of
So
informs
maybe
how
your
we can
website actually has a problem
focus
with
in.
that data. Like your browser will fill it in, but then the form
Yeah.
doesn't recognize that it's filled in.
I've never.
And that's very confusing to a user because they'll see
Oh,
their
they just showed
information in there,
Yeah.
but when they
So
can't
data or
click
choose
submit.
one of our
It's a real
samples.
problem I've seen on the website before.
We want
But that's
cards,
something that you'd only
movies,
notice
music, or
with flow
documents.
testing, where maybe you filled out that information on that site, went to another page that
Are we
had
all
a
trying
form,
to never had
and
a
saw it
cocktail?
autofill
Okay.
without
Maybe
clearing
that's,
your cache. If you cleared your cache,
Very
cookies in between, you wouldn't catch that problem. So the idea is you're acting like
This is
a real
something that
user. The
people
real
use
user
on
goes and
college.
clears their
That's
cookies, you know, after
So we
every
can
time
see
they
there
submit
are,
a form or
there's
something like that on the
correlations,
website.
right? So we've got.
Also, I
vodka,
tend to think entirely in the context of web applications because that's where pretty much all of my testing experience is. So if you guys work in more like system applications, definitely
Yeah.
feel free to bring up more unique scenarios that are special to that.
Yeah, like installability is a quality criteria that we rarely ever touch because all of our apps are web products. We're not installing on OSs and testing the actual file systems. So, like when we upgrade a database version, we might be doing some installability testing, but it's so rare for us with web products.
There was once on the ClickMotive platform that there was a bug that only appeared on an unpatched version of Windows. Like it was missing Service Pack 2 or something.
So you actually had to do some, yeah.
Yeah. And the only reason it got caught was because somebody hadn't updated their VMs.
It happened to find it, yeah.
Yeah, because you don't think about systems compatibility testing like at that level for web applications.
Because then if we organize by cylinders.
So, first step would be, like I said, let's spend 5 minutes, 10 at most, just prioritizing these based on what we know about the product, which is very little, right? because it's okay. It's okay for us to prioritize these, talk to the PO, and then change them out. Like, because it's a living document. It's going to change over the course of the sprint or your development project or whatever.
So, this is the application. It's raw. This is the data visualization thing. We're gonna
I didn't do anything.
yeah. They offer some sample data here. Movies. So this is
It was taking forever. I don't know that car. Whatever.
I don't know. So this is just
That's good.
Okay,
so comma delimited values. We can see up here from our titles that it's a movie, the genre,
So anyway,
production, cost, budget,
is correlate data.
total domestic box office. Okay, that's all one
So,
thing. And the rating on IMDb. And then this application allows you to build all sorts of crazy data visualizations. Like these are all those super cool graphs you always see all the time. This one's pretty. I like this one. And so then you have to go and you have to map your dimensions. We have to.
You don't have to do anymore.
So what we're really talking
Unless
about
you feel
is a
compelled.
website, right?
I'm
So a
compelled.
website.
Must have colors.
Yes.
So with that in
Okay,
mind, if
so-
you cover over these little notes, it gives you kind of a little cheat sheet.
And you can edit a lot of stuff about how
So
it looks.
capability, kind of
colors, stuff like that.
functions.
Um,
I get annoyed at this one because this one's usually.
and then it gives you the options to download it as either they
I've never
added.
once
Yeah,
No.
they had those.
looked at something.
They had
Maybe if
JSON
it's something that has. Okay, I'll give you an example.
No, they had
They had
SVG.
They had a
and
JPEG.
there's-
If we're just
Are you
doing
saying-
a story that's just
No, they have both of these.
function.
I think they
of
added
some
to JSON.
product.
So like
Really
the ability to download is
small
functionality
change in
or
functionality.
capability. The ability
maybe
to
The capability
visually
is not gonna be
see the
like
bubbles, that would be
like
more like
how much
charisma or UI testing.
So in that case, maybe this would be
Security, right? Is security an issue?
But
Can
in
I
this
do?
case,
Go back to
I
the
feel
top
like
real
this
quick, Jeff.
capability would be a
Could I do
little
SQL injection in here? Could I type in a SQL query and drop a table, right? So could I drop one of these? Like that would be security testing
There
and
should be numbers over here.
One
prevent
question
others from using the product.
about this was like, what if you're working this with sensitive data?
Alright, so
Are they saving or
reliability,
storing this
liquidity,
information anywhere?
Will it work well and resist failure?
The answer to that is no. All of this is done client
So-
side. So none of the data that here
This is
goes
a broad
anywhere. It doesn't
word,
go
right?
out
Reliability.
to a server
I
or
take
run
this to
computations and send it back,
Is it something
which is
that
good.
Based
do I
on
need
their
to worry
claims,
about?
as far as we know.
You can actually watch the network tab.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
like
So you
what
did
the
Fiddler or whatever wants the traffic. Yeah.
Something like a web
So-
app.
So cool. So on the
I
mind
think
map,
that's
we want to
what
go through and talk
I'm thinking
about
like,
each
okay,
of
that's not
those.
important, but maybe not the most important because
Do
you
it's
start
not
here? I
likely
always
to,
start
like,
with
go down
quality
or come
reserve,
up.
but
That
it's
would
up
be
to you.
more like,
I actually tend to start here.
Okay.
Because I find it
Unless
personally, I find it
we
easier
hosted it here.
to group my thinking
That's
around
probably
these
cloud.
nodes.
How to test.
Yeah,
Maybe
like
they don't know,
around
but
what
no,
I'm gonna
I don't know.
do,
Okay.
than around that kind of abstract concept.
We're going to prioritize them both, so we can
I'm
start
thinking
wherever.
that's maybe like a-
Okay, so
I feel kind of-
So functional testing, really briefly, in a
Yeah, I
nutshell,
think
is
too, 'cause
anything
first off, it's
outside of the
so nobody's
capability.
gonna lose money over it.
Capability testing or functional testing?
And,
function testing is identify
really,
things that the
if
product
you're
can
gonna
do.
Right. So it's everything that's out.
show up
It could be
visually,
including the acceptance criteria
as
or
long
outside the
as,
acceptance
you
criteria.
are using it.
So,
your eyes and
Just because it's not in the
trying
acceptance
to
criteria
use
doesn't mean that we
the
don't test it.
accessibility options.
It might do stuff that is cool and we think is interesting, but we're not necessarily looking for the customer's not waiting and expecting that. So
It's hard to tell.
So
if it is,
basically,
right? In some
outside of
ways, it's-
acceptance criteria, outside of what our customers are
statistics
asking
or
for, how would
data.
we prioritize that? Do you think that'd be a 1
So how do you feel?
or a 2 or a 3?
And keep in mind, like,
It's kind of a democratic process.
Because we have different perspectives, so people can maybe think of things.
Like,
So don't be afraid to like.
I think about
go
this
to
as,
one because
well, if what it can do is nice, but it's not like the high priority, right? It's not, our clients aren't asking for extra functional testing
You,
outside
I
of.
was gonna say, you considered this node a lot more different
Well,
than I
I
do.
do.
like,
I consider capability,
I do that
can it
pretty
do
high.
what the customer's asking?
Oh, well, that's not one of these.
Right, but this to
Yeah.
me is above and beyond capability. It's like outside of what we said it can do, because claims testing is acceptance criteria.
feel like that's most of it.
No, claims testing is what
Getting the
is
product,
the actual
claims,
claims about the product. So
Specifications,
specifications, yeah, but a lot of I do the help files and the documentation.
I consider acceptance criteria
They may
current
not be
claims
reliable,
because
but
it can't
as
go
long
out
as you
without
know
those.
that
So,
you did move this
so
over
above,
here,
if we're let's just for the
So
sake of this
charisma,
describe this as above and beyond the acceptance criteria or the specs. How would we prioritize that?
I'd probably put it like a 2 for this one. Yeah, we can just kind of so security. I don't. Yeah, there's no accounts or anything.
Would you guys put that as a 1 or 3?
Scalability. I don't.
So basically, like anything the product can do above and beyond what the client's asking.
Compatibility.
So outside of what the client's asking.
Nothing really unless there's an API or
2 or
something.
3.
Yeah, probably a 2. I like a 2.
is it compatible?
At least wanna, like, blow
with
through the-
something
these don't have
else,
to be
or is it
perfect.
being
Domain
able to
testing is the data.
use it, you know, 'cause
So, like,
you're in
the
Firefox
CSV,
versus Chrome
the-
versus
how
mobile
much-
app or
That's a
something
good
the
like
data, the
that.
data
That
types it
is
can handle.
So,
Is it going to
in
take
that
text
case,
data? Is it going to take images? Is it going to take
Like if it
whatever?
was my product, that would be pretty high. on the list.
Given that it's a
So
It's a data
Yeah,
visualization one, and
I think that's
the
pretty-
data processing
I
is
would
the biggest
personally
part of
probably
it. So
put
I
a 2
personally
because
would
I know
do
that's
that at a
not
1.
much time
Because
testing,
one of the
it's
biggest
not
things we're going to be looking for are things like
But
if you give it a ton of data.
What was that? Oh, that light went out.
I was gonna say.
Um,
I'm not used
will-
to those cameras
does it-
anymore.
Does it ever like overload it to the point of completely
Performance
crashing
how
the
speedy
app?
and
If you give it
responsive is
bad data,
Yeah, like
you know
if it's
what
not
happens
speedy and
there.
responsive,
You'd want to
this,
look at
I
like
think, would
boundary
actually
values,
affect
like
usability
even
quite a
within the
bit.
data.
I'd
So like
probably
that one had production
Yeah, I'm
values.
gonna go
What
with
happens
2
if that was,
also,
you know,
because, I mean, you're still
30
using a
zeros
web app,
longer.
so you still expect some delay.
Right.
for a single data point.
So stress
Yeah.
testing is overwhelming the
Solidity,
product.
we don't handle any of the
Um,
installation of this.
How much do we think?
Now,
Do we think
some
stress testing
industries
is
you'll use
important?
a
How
lot
important do we think
with
that is?
software, unless you're actually doing server installations, you're probably not
Either it's a 3 or a 2.
I think it's
I don't think it's a 1, but
That's not
that's up to
right.
y'all.
a 3.
Should
Okay.
be,
Yeah.
If
put
you
a
do
3.
tax software this time of year, it's a 1.
It
But the rest
depends on the time of year, right?
I've
Closer
never-
you
I've
get
never
to-
2
seen
weeks,
that.
you know.
Closer you get to April 15th.
I was gonna say.
So flow
Should
testing
be
again, how does the
performance.
user
No,
navigate the
that's-
software?
Still really developed.
What's underneath?
Hey Connor, can you scroll down on the list?
I guess it's there. I've got it on my phone.
What do you need?
Alright, we were,
This one?
didn't think development was supposed to be in.
Yeah, I don't have development on the one that I've got in my head.
How did you knock the?
What?
So
Never
let's see
mind.
what it says.
What did I do?
How well
Oh,
can you
whatever.
create, test, and modify?
Scenario testing?
That sounds useful, I guess.
So this is
That's more of a
specific. This is like
development.
imagine a problem that could specifically happen and then
Yeah.
That's
use it. That's what's testing.
So
when I
scenario
usually hit this
testing
one,
is literally where he was talking about doing
I
the
start
steps. So you try to
here,
think like the difference between
that's
flow
the most
testing is
visible.
you're literally using it
Claims
like
is
your
the one
user's
that
phone. You
makes
just
money,
click,
right?
keep
That's
clicking
what
through just like
claims
they
means
would.
like
You don't
a
reset anything. Scenario
You
testing is where you say to
claims
yourself,
is-
okay, I'm making a word processing software.
challenge
A
every
scenario
claim,
that
so
my
I
user is
claim
going to is
that
that a real
can,
user is going to go
take
through
this
is
set of data
printing
and
a document.
represent accurately.
Step 1, I open a
I claim
document.
that it
Step
can do it
2,
in a
so that is the
reasonable amount of
scenario
time.
for opening and printing a document, but they're discrete scenarios unlike
Well,
flow testing. Where maybe flow testing, I want to open a document, print it, open a
Well,
different document,
traditionally,
open a different document, print it.
The PL was
Close
So,
document.
in this
Scenario,
case,
scenario is
sometimes,
like
you know,
what's
maybe
the
your
really
claims
likely
bad
cases the user's going to do,
happen.
which
And you have
to me
still
is sort of
test
a
it.
1, but in between a 1 and
So
a
in
2.
this case,
And what I'm always
which is
concerned about is
not
a
ideal,
1 or a
but
2 or 2
you
or
do it
3. I
really all
hear
the
on the
time.
higher
Maybe
side.
not for
So like
requirement
I just
testing,
round
you
up.
do it for
So
functional
it's
testing
2
where
1
you
or
say,
round
like,
down
for
actually.
example,
I do the
an
higher
example
priority.
is, well, if you build a new TV that
So claims testing,
has subtitles or
just
something,
what he and I
you
were
still
talking
know
about,
that
like,
it's
claims
used
about
to
the
be able
product,
to
so that includes
turn volume down.
specifications,
So you're creating claims yourself,
service level
right? So
agreements,
based on
help
knowledge of
files,
what
so
a TV is.
documentation, marketing
So for this,
materials
we
is
would have to-
another big one.
So on that note,
This
what
is
are
basically
claims?
your current acceptance criteria and every former acceptance criteria
They have samples.
that was ever written for the product
Okay.
Select from.
or for this
So,
area of the
do all
future.
the samples separately.
Another good
How would
resource
you
may be talking to your support people.
Are there
Find out
samples
if there
available to
if there
select?
are known
Do
problems
they
with the
populate
product and
the list?
if they're
It's not
telling
optional.
clients workarounds.
So it's
Because if
one in-
someone is telling clients
we'll pretend
already
like we've never
that this
seen
workaround is how
others.
this works, that is a
Are there
claim.
samples?
All right, so let's put a 1 on that. Let's move on. User testing. This is actual users. So like this is our product in New York sends stuff out to Honda and says test this. This isn't you
So you can
pretending
do
to
these
be a
in
user.
statements or questions.
So 9 times out of 10 we can't do
If
that.
I have questions.
We don't have
Did
users
the-
for our product to
Do they
test.
populate the way we
The,
expect? I would say
PDF
something like,
mentions that you can try taking on
um,
the role of a user, but it's not real testing.
if
And then using user
our
profiles. profiles.
Control.
Fire personas, yeah.
Well,
size.
it's buyer personas for us, but
Customer personas or whatever you
Yeah.
call it, profiles, yeah. So I would put that as a 3 because we're not. Again, this is also how much time we're going to spend on it, and we're not really going to go out in the public and say, "Can you test this?" We're going to be doing the testing. All right, this is everything else. So this is risk testing is like anything that you think could possibly go wrong. Like, what if I put financial data into this app? Is it going to send an email to someone with their credit card numbers, right? So like risk testing, that's like imagine a problem and really try to make that problem happen.
I don't know how to word it. User can
Yeah.
customize what data.
You could say you could argue it's a 1 all the time, but I probably 2.
I mean, a lot of times I've seen this be low just because maybe this particular feature or whatever is not that risky. Like, there's a lot of times you'll get something
Like a new design that we do for a website.
The
template,
styles
like
we were choosing from.
the worst that'll happen is it might not look right. We'll just switch them back to the other design. So the risks aren't high. There are some risks, but they're just not super high risks. So.
The style that's chosen should.
I
Not
think
all risks are
I've
created
definitely morphed this in my head as well.
Okay.
I tend to focus this one on trying to think of ways that failures would
formats
cost my company money.
And this would be something where
Well, cost is a risk.
Yeah,
So that's fine.
So yeah, that's where I tend to focus that.
A lot of these have
visualizations also.
deep explanations of what each one could be. So having this PDF later to go through is helpful.
Yeah.
All right, so just put a 2 on that.
And for the one you mentioned.
And then automation. Are we going to write automation for it? Are we going to? This is basically useful if, let's say, you're a black box tester and you don't have coding skills. You would put this as a 3 with a note that says, I don't have the ability to write automation, but I do think it's important maybe, so I don't know how we're going to do this, but maybe we can call someone else in to help or whatever.
And, well, I mean,
You can also put a 1 and say, I don't know how to do it.
If we see something,
But you want someone else to do it. So part of your test strategy is I plan to have someone else do it. I just don't have the skill to do it.
You can just mark something like.
I would also, for this particular case, I would think about data generators.
Yeah, all the CSVs, we could, like 1,000 different data files we could throw into.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to create those manually, so we look for an automated tool to create a whole bunch of like random data that we can keep feeding into this to find out if there's a breakpoint.
So you can put a 2 on that. Just spend some time on it, but not a lot.
Kind of the meat of.
All right, on these, let's go do them super
Keeping
fast.
in
The
mind
capability is a
Anything
1.
that directly affects a claim is probably going to be handled under.
How capable is the product? Reliability, how well can it resist failure? So like if we did put a ton of lines
What are
or
some
code in,
functional tests?
or data in, and it glitched or didn't like a character, would the website crash or would it just gracefully handle the error?
People confuse it sometimes with claim testing because
2, yeah, 2 is probably good.
functional testing broadly means.
How usable is it?
This is actually super important
I'm a 1.
since,
Yeah, I'm always 1.
for this particular
Anything that has a GUI, I'm usually a 1.
Whereas functional testing is.
Charisma is again, does have the it factor in 3 probably.
Yeah, I don't think.
Well, this also includes UI, so.
Do the drop downs drop down.
Right,
With
exactly.
data entry fields, and these are actually ones that.
Charisma gets just how pretty it is.
So yeah, exactly.
This is a
So for
UX
functional
and
testing,
UI, so.
what are some
Yeah,
things
so
that we know based on
usability is
stuff
literally
we've
about,
used in the past?
do you find it
websites
difficult
that
to
have
use,
data.
not intuitive?
What are
Does
some
it make
things
you take
should
extra
look at?
steps that it doesn't need to? Stuff like that.
And charisma is the beauty.
Is it just ugly?
Yeah.
I
It
mean,
might work great,
Sure.
but oh my gosh, it's ugly.
but I mean, when I think of the user profiles for who would normally use a product like this, it's probably people who aren't concerned
yeah.
about this looking pretty. They're more concerned about accuracy for their graphs. I would guess.
So let's put security is probably a 3, just because we know it's on the
I
client
did,
side.
I did
Yeah,
this
I-
myself.
Scalability is,
Online.
can we add on to it in the future?
Say this.
Are we going to have to refactor the whole thing if we want to add 1 field?
No.
2, that's
Well,
more good.
scalability is
So
like.
this would these could
100
be
users.
questions.
What happens if I have
that we should,
10,000?
like, because these are
That is, that's domain and stress testing.
Oh yeah, stress
It's not
testing.
just tests.
Usability, let me get the best definition.
And performance testing down here would be another place to use that.
Affordability.
In this particular case, since all of that is handled
So that we can
client side,
jump out of the way.
the number of users is actually not
They
that.
never think about
So
this.
scalability is literally how well does the deployment of the product scale up or down. So like if I'm going to code onto it in the future, like code scalability.
like.
So am I gonna have to go back and refactor Bob's bad code to redo everything?
Yes, well, I would actually
Or-
say this is a 3, simply because at this time we don't have access to any of the code we do. I could go pull the Git hubs and open source.
Right, but if it's a real
amount
product.
of value that we get out of the time that we're going to come into this is probably super low, and that's the argument I would make for making that a 3.
Compatibility, so we'd want to test it in multiple browsers, maybe 2 or something.
Yeah, I think this one is
Just put
super, super important.
Round up or round down if you want to. Performance is just basically, like what you were saying, can you throw like 100 users at it or whatever. Solvability
That's
3
definitely part of
and development is
QA
usually 2-ish, but
part of being involved in the process.
it's a lot of stuff. As if we're a tester, especially for a black box tester, we won't have a lot of control over that. But we still want to ask questions.
So you're part of the development.
Okay, so now that we've got them all prioritized, we want to go back through just the ones, which is what we've said we're going to spend the most time on, and flesh those out. By basically saying what we're going to test in those areas.
Maybe if you're,
So like domain testing is all about the data, right? So
I think they could still be
Yeah,
extremely
this
valuable.
is literally says decide what data to test with. Do you
That's
have
kind of
a?
more this stuff.
I think I actually have a full
I
HTSM.
was just thinking that, let's say.
Just
Oh,
kidding,
I've got
I
it.
don't.
The full HTSM? Right here?
Yeah, I was gonna pull it up so we can.
yeah, so
Which is also the Handle Temple Society of Mississippi, which you will see all the time when you.
we have to type HTSM block, and then you never get that.
Well, where it's like,
Oh,
we share
that's
these.
5 extra
My
keystrokes.
team,
It
like,
is.
team that she's on now,
Good job
they're
getting the
very
space.
accepting of it. So I would share this and say, hey.
So domain testing is
here's what
divide
we
and conquer the
do.
data.
Oh, that's cool.
Usually in the first day or two of the sprint, we do 2 weeks.
Got it? Ish.
Sprint is
Scroll
No.
down.
a length of time. with
Oh,
which
there we
we
go.
try to
Oh, this is
make a
actually a
product
problem with
that
my Chrome.
It
feature
doesn't
or
render it right.
Yeah, it doesn't render PDFs sometimes.
Okay, so
It's
here's
not like,
you can look
you
up
say,
there.
okay, on June 5th,
See
we're
my-
gonna release
whatever. So domain
So, like,
testing
every 2 weeks,
is
we wanna have
any
something
data that
that is some
the
little chunk of
product
value,
processes
even if
in
it's just
or
a
out.
drop-down that
So it's going to
does
output
something the customer
visuals.
wants,
It's going to
or
input
just a
text.
refactor.
It's going to
So
output
that sprint means it's part of this
have it up there.
agile mentality of
whatever that works.
continuous development.
Here's just clear. This is on zooming, right? Because I'm using the browser zoom instead of the built-in zoom. Yes.
Usually they're
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
So usually what you
So
see
it's a lot
is,
of data to take
you
in,
see
but
it's a non-agile business getting crammed into
looking for
agile.
boundary values, typical values,
But
convenient
what you can
values.
say,
So,
some companies
like,
are
I would
very
put
good at
in,
it, because if they
like
have
what
a really
Jasmine
healthy
was saying
company
earlier
that's
about
doing
generating
agile, then they can
data
shut down
scripts.
and say, look,
We
like,
want to get all
just
that from
let
a
us
tool that
go through
generates
this thing,
that,
we're gonna keep
and then
simple.
make sure that that data is really varied. So,
But,
like,
to get back
let's
to
put in
this,
some numbers, put in some
usually when I
alphanumeric,
would
let's
do
put
it
in special
first day or two of
characters.
this brand, which means
So, like,
developers
in your mind map, you're
either
going to start
are not
typing all
just
these
coding, they're
ideas.
just code, or probably still talking, probably still having discussions,
If you don't lose
or
it.
maybe having
Oh, good.
No, that was
Well,
that's
something
actually my
I'll do
VPN
this,
connection,
and I'll bring it
Okay.
which was still up from when I was working from home last night.
my thing, and usually
So you're doubly connected all day. So
I guess
domain,
so.
so domain testing is special characters, alphanumeric.
Very aggressive, so I'll go and say, so like, what do you think? I'll ask questions that force
What
them
other
to
kind of
be
data
aggressive.
do you think we could throw at it?
Nulls.
There you
But,
go.
yeah, so then you find out things. Like,
Yep.
should we have
So
some-
comma space comma
Oh, yeah.
or comma
or
undefined or
if you're gonna
some
do copy paste that has
messed
a
up data,
set of
especially
elements, right? Can I
yeah,
copy
like
paste one?
other languages, different languages.
All sorts of-
So if I upload a CSV in Spanish that has ins over the ends, is it going to tank the product?
Whatever y'all want to do. I think we should probably go through some other
Okay.
things.
Oh, I got a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, we can
It's a
go on
website,
there.
you can pull a bunch of things out of it.
So,
Umlauts,
domain
things like
testing,
that.
I'm just writing
this is
foreign character
essentially-
support, guys, or I could do just
It says-
UTF-8.
I want you to write every language.
Oh, they've got it up.
Good timing.
Hi, guys.
What, you need this? Okay.
Look for any data process for the product.
So
Outputs as well.
I added the
So I
max
think
number of
this
rows
is,
and max number of columns because when you
for
think of the
this
CSV, it's actually
probably
essentially
front
just a
end,
spreadsheet
right?
of your table.
Some HTML and some CSS.
And is there a point
Then we've
in
probably
that
got
where it gets
data.
overwhelmed?
Got all this data.
Or you get
Then
too
we might have
few columns.
the
too few
logic
columns.
talks to
Yep.
That's what will actually make the code blow up.
that usually. So
Yeah.
those are 3 areas already.
Or an unexpected column delimiter or something, like instead of a comma, we used a,
Yeah, or I might
semicolon.
make it such a big product.
and so
like,
it sees that as an
I
escape
need to
character
look
maybe
at
or
it,
something.
but I just want to look at the database right now and say, well,
All right,
or maybe
stress
use the
testing.
database and the logic, right?
That's 3.
When I
Scenario
What's your
testing.
next one? Scenario
this
testing.
function that says update.
So think about everything going on in the product. Design
Then when I
tests
go
that
to the
involve
table, I look at it and
meaningful,
go, well, it didn't update. So now
complex
I already know
interactions with the
I don't
product.
have to
So
use
basically,
the
what's a
web
user
UI
going to do?
that. Or maybe I just care about the web UI.
I guess the first one
just hit the web UI with the
So yeah,
website,
that's
with everything
like
I
13
can,
tests right
and then
there.
go get to the other stuff.
So the benefit with this is we've told the product
owner
owner we're going to do 13 tests because there's 13 visualizations, but we didn't write out all those steps, all those test cases.
And
That's enough for them to know we're going to test them all. We don't necessarily need to say we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit over using
for
a
this
mind map
website.
rather than scripted test cases.
So
We actually have a lot of
Maybe
teams
say,
that just use this instead
I
of
would just focus on
pass-fail test
the stuff
cases.
we already talked about that was based on this website. Right?
So this is actually the tester's artifact rather than
When I click
a
this,
huge suite of
it's
steps.
this change,
Um,
right?
So you could say
So
scenario B.
there we go. It took it a while.
A scenario is something like I put in all the data and then I go to the very bottom and hit submit
I'm
without
not so much
clicking
worried
anything.
about
So like I go out of order. You put like out of order, doing the steps out of order
how does this
would be a scenario.
operate, right?
Like instead of
I hover
going
over these,
here and then dragging
it's
and then visualizing and then clicking submit, I just go
Not going.
yeah, like I tried to export it before I even put any data in.
Well,
You can't do
these
that
aren't-
because there's nothing to export. So
They're not necessarily.
But what happens
separate
when I do that? If I hit
things. They kind of
submit,
bleed
does
over,
it
right? So
just say I have,
I
does
can
it
do
politely
some
say I have no
testing
data,
this.
or does it totally crash? You know?
I'm domains, since I'm restricting my domain to.
All right, what's our next one?
Still functional. I can do claims testing. That's,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well,
Yeah, catch off.
claims testing.
Claims
you probably
testing.
prove the number
Yeah.
of-
sorry.
So claims testing
We were talking
is
about
basically
that.
the acceptance
So how do we
criteria,
prove
everything
this?
before that,
The claim
README
is, well,
files.
It takes data and it
There we go.
puts it up. Well, then you have to say, well, when? Or when I do
And
what?
challenge every claim, right? So like we know that this is supposed to output a JPEG and a PNG file.
So this, yeah, domain would be.
So by-
maybe front end today, or maybe
by testing
user
that, I
front
would
end,
say,
like, you've got a lot of
You
experience
know,
doing
my
data,
hypothesis
so
would be
you
I
know
don't think
that-
it's going to output right, or it's going to give me some jacked up file that won't open in an image in your.
Yeah, it does
Um,
SVGs.
Maybe
PNGs, and
we'll.
So
JPEGs.
this claims testing is usually pretty huge. So you could do like image
That's what domain
types,
is, just means setting aside
data
domains,
types.
splitting it up. If you don't have any context in the product, you can't necessarily do that. You have to kind of black.
Fun fact, it doesn't create valid files when you select PNG if you have a space in the name.
So
Yeah, so there's
that's
something
all
that
domain is.
you put
Stress
you type
testing,
the date out with the month, the
overwhelm
day, and the
product,
year,
pretty
all spaced out.
self-explanatory, right? For this here, what are some ways that we can stress test this?
All right. Claims. I mean, you could put you can even just put acceptance criteria here,
Size, big in
and
terms
that would
of
tell your
data,
product owner
number of lines, yeah, number of,
that you're going to hit on all those things.
columns, you know, all kinds of
We can go here.
For
For looking at claims,
Oh, there's a fax FAQ.
Yeah.
Categorical information.
That would basically tell you what the developers intended it for it intended it to do. You don't have to do any guessing. It basically says if it does
Sure.
this, it
Or
should
maybe,
do
like,
this, and this is
Take all your cram them
answers
into here, right?
from the actual product
That's a
people.
good
So
question.
So yeah, like one of the
Real quick,
claims.
just so we remember later.
I have no idea what I just did. One of the claims is that they don't store the data. So maybe that should be a claim that we
Yep.
test.
Data storage.
Verify that there's no data being transmitted when I create a visualization.
Right. But the cool thing about the My Map is you could just say items from the FAQ.
Multiple.
And then that tells the PO, and you could even put a link in here to the
I could.
FAQs.
But I won't.
And that tells the PO that
Okay,
you're,
so that's a couple good
that if
ones.
they
Let's
do
go
click
back
on
to
that and
that.
they read it, they're like, oh, they thought about all this. So I don't need to write a test case for every FAQ. I can just say I'm going to test this.
Looks like it's overriding.
Yeah.
What was the next one?
By the way, one interesting thing you
Down
can
into
do
quality criteria.
Capability. Okay.
when you're front end testing, there's things that there's
Capability.
tools that the browser has where you can actually tell it to act like
So,
the browser that is on
Can it perform the required functions? So this
Then
is
you
where
can
we get
see
into
behind the scenes.
what did the
Is this
user
really
really ask
disappearing,
for?
or
What
are
did
they,
the
like,
user
maybe
actually
drawing
want it
another
to
one
do?
and hiding it? Because what you can do is if someone has slow connection.
Yeah,
what if
so
it
it could
doesn't
make
go
a
away from it?
visualization.
And you can
Does
click
it
it
accept
again.
text data?
If you're submitting a form with credit card information, if I'm on a slow
Can I copy
connection,
paste,
and I
into the
click
text
OK,
box, or do I have to
so then I
import
can
or whatever?
that's bad, right? So there's all
Um,
kinds of things you can do. So we see that we can throw it all in down.
Mentions, that's what they're calling it.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's not free.
So like this would be
But
huge.
it is
Probably you
graphically
have.
It's graphic.
You might even have so on the tool here.
So
You might even say
stuff
insert
like
your
that,
data
right?
is a node,
Let's see.
and then off
I
of
had
each of
this,
those
I
you have
did
children.
when I-
It says What kind of data can it import? Can it take text? Can I copy paste in that field?
27.
So you'd have children and parent nodes coming off of each of these.
Ooh, okay.
You trying
So
to-
it didn't copy some.
Oh, you're gonna show an example.
I
First mind map.
I wonder what this was.
Sometimes you have to use the edit menu to get it to public.
Oh, it's probably the sample they give you.
Yeah, I was looking to see if I actually had the one that we made for this
So
app.
yeah, the
from the
copy
class.
paste does work that way. We can try.
You did it in MindMaster, yeah.
It did.
But it's not in here.
Oh, you're
Is
right.
that just the top, like,
See,
five
this
or-
is why it's good having multiple. So
I don't know.
I would just sit, do this, maybe.
I can show an example
So
though.
copy that. Now I'm
Yeah,
at
what do we look like
300.
down
Over.
Alright, so like, this was an area of the product, and then within that area, what are we thinking
This is
about?
stuff I love.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like concerns of sub-concerns of sub-concerns.
Just
Yeah.
like one.
Like
use,
domain
Excel.
testing.
So-
I actually put in here how I was gonna do it, like using the
So
network
we're
tab
getting-
on the inspect
Now it's
to
getting
verify
slower, right? So
the
now
post
we can start-
requests.
We can start
And then,
determining, where the cutoff
off
is
of that,
for
I was
use.
like, hey,
We can say, well,
try to find
this is
instances
like
where invalidated. Now granted, like this is how I like to do
stress
them.
testing.
Me
How
and my
many-
team, and this is how we build them out. This is not how Connor built his out.
That's fine. So go back to what
How slowly.
what was the next, oh yeah, we were talking
The
about.
first time you copy.
We're talking about
Next one.
capability.
That's fine, that would basically have,
And then the
you would
first
just
time
go
you
through this
paste
and do a
it,
save
definitely
every chat,
comes
and
up.
anything you're doing is
Yeah.
is the
It's taking me
capability.
a lot longer
So-
to even copy paste. Right?
You could just say,
So what I'm trying to do eventually is I'm trying to
go through and play with the product, and anything you
I'm trying
play
to,
with
break
becomes
the script
a concern, right?
Site, right?
Becomes a
Wanna
capability concern.
Either overwhelm the back end or.
So insert your data, choose a
So
chart.
this is
good. It's telling you.
So there's data import, chart choice.
yeah, but I'm still.
These would
trying
be the
to
parent
click it, 'cause I
nodes,
just basically
mapping the
did it. So it's
dimensions. So
something
like when you do the drag and dropping,
144,000
customizing the visualization, width, height, all that
I've
stuff,
Reached a point where.
and then
so something like
downloading and
last
embedding
month
code.
looks
So like
it
you could have those main categories.
did. And now I want to see what.
Reliability.
bottom looks like.
Oh, that's
Oh,
two.
that's two.
Usability.
So
We've determined
would-
already that, well, anything beyond.
I might test it on. I might have a
60,000
mobile node
is
and a
like
desktop
pretty
node.
slow.
How
Just
easy
look
is
how
it for
long
a
I'm
real
having
user to
wait
use?
for- There we go.
And we did have
Usability.
to
Like
wait a
if
while
I'm
for,
if there's
like,
30%
email
web traffic these days or more on mobile
Actually,
devices,
so-
then I'm going to test mobile
It's true. So
devices.
this is pretty beefy.
Now we already
It's
know it
not
doesn't work
bad.
on mobile, but
So which one
let's
do
say
we
we
want to
don't.
choose?
Right, that would be concerning.
First, let's see the original
So-
one we compared to what we saw.
Well,
And nothing.
We don't have
I
one.
mean, that's usually the number one
Alright.
concern with apps, right? Is it easy to
Oh,
use?
yeah,
Because if
yeah.
it's not, then you're
Everything
just going to
we did
uninstall it.
So which one should we choose?
Like I installed Domino's and Papa John's. I don't care.
Yeah, I want the
Whose
one that
pizza I
has the
get,
most.
But if the app's not
visually,
good, I'm just going to
you know,
switch.
'cause I want to try and break it. Right?
Sacrilege to say.
So like this would be kind of easy. That's a cheap. Like expensive.
But I'm honestly just going to use whichever one's easier at the time because I'm easy to please with pizza. So
I don't have an image yet. So.
We haven't given the direction.
workflow clearly outlined. Okay.
Yeah, so
Trying to
basically
be
what I'm
fair about-
saying is
Clusters will do by genre.
Yeah, like is it clear that I start here and then I
Oh,
go to
man.
the next step?
like personally
Yeah.
A little slow.
I think they could have made this a lot more obvious that this is something that you
I bet you in the
click
background
change.
it's
Right. Or put a one
Yeah, I'm
here
waiting
so
to
I know
see,
that
like, the mouse
there's something
freaking
coming up
super
later
no,
steps,
it
right?
looks like it
Yeah,
recognizes
you know, because
So-
right now it
so
looks like this is all there is
now
to
we're
the page.
in good territory.
It's almost like they
Visually
try to go too
fits a lot,
minimalistic to make it modern.
So,
Yeah, I think they were trying to go for like the
so what I would
wizard
say is
workflow, but
I made my test on
I
this. There we go. I would say
So then off mobile, I might put like
You know,
Android,
after
iOS,
X
and then
amount
off of each of those
lines or whatever
you know,
became
unique
unresponsive.
concerns that are specific to those OSs.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm thinking that maybe whoever is trying to
Usability.
will say, I want to get at least.
So usability would be like selecting a design. Is it
Right,
easy
you
to
would
select
want
a
to
design?
establish,
Or if I,
establish
if I
boundaries,
click
right?
here
Because
between them,
the
does it like
baseline-
select one and
Yeah,
it makes it
this
look
is my
weird?
favorite screen. This means I've
I don't think I
officially
spelled that correctly.
reached the end of my stress testing.
Um,
So I'm not going to hit wait because
mapping, like if I drag and drop, let's say I drag over here to the x-axis, and I don't let go at the exact right spot,
Tell them, yeah,
then maybe it flies
what-
back over here.
Maybe
right?
there's an expectation.
So like that would
Maybe
be front, like if I go like here and I let go,
But if there's
It
no
flies back.
expectation, then I can at least
If you-
tell, well,
I would
Oh,
expect anywhere in this box it should drop it, but I have to go to the bottom and I have to let it go.
But before that, it's
I have to go
okay, then at
over to
least
the
they
bottom
know, and they
and
can
let it
talk to
go.
the
That kind of
product
frustrates
and say,
me.
well, is that acceptable?
Like they know I want to drop it here. They
So
should
that's
just let me
stress
drop it.
You can put, let's see.
So this is kind of cool. So you should only use numbers
We
here.
did
Yeah, that's what I was just
Yeah.
trying.
something.
What color do you think of when you think of
Rows.
errors?
Not yellow, right?
Yeah.
This is more like
Let's
caution.
say,
I would just scroll. I'd be like, I don't care. I'll scroll down. It's just yellow.
around
It's only a warning.
140,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a mandate. It's just a
Oh.
warning. So I would
So-
Flow
It's a
testing.
suggestion.
exactly.
Yeah,
Now maybe they wanted to stay in
If you
their color
wanted, you could
palette or
use,
something.
Making sure that
You can
data
do your
errors are
heuristic
clear.
and then you can
as
write
well.
some notes
Same
down. Because
problem
let's
for,
say I
like,
do it
if
right
you
now, right? I've written
Uploaded
my
an
heuristic.
invalid file
It's a
up
quick
here.
answer.
Does it
because I
does
know
it
that they
display
have
that in a user friendly
Maybe
way?
they
If I
It's in development, right? It's on the dev environment.
you actually can
Development
cause it to
environment, but it's not
incorrectly
released
parse,
yet.
like, is it
Maybe it
obvious?
takes me
Can I
5
figure out how
seconds
to
to test
my
it real
data?
quick, and I can
Does
find
it
out
say there's an error
maybe I
parsing
need
your
to get
data
that-
in my
that information.
6,000 line file and
So
not tell
yeah,
me
you
where
could
it
add,
is?
but
That's not
you're right.
very
Traditionally,
useful.
this would mostly be the
All right.
right.
Let's spend like 2 more
instill
minutes.
some sort of pattern, like every
Good, we have one more.
putting
More
results in
compatibility.
here,
So
make
I would just
it
write like multi-browsers, and then each of the
Because you
within
can
that
ask,
note I have like
you
Chrome,
can have these questions,
Firefox,
you can have answers. Right?
Edge,
So
or
I could
whatever.
have, I could make my answer be something like,
You guys have to support Edge yet?
Yes,
probably something a little nicer, like an informational.
technically.
Then I can have answers for it. So then I
Edge
know
is the
that
new
each
IE.
question-
There's no more IE.
Yeah.
But flow testing is going to be do one thing after another.
It's basically just
chain,
Chrome fork.
chain things together. We talked about that.
Um,
Don't reset. Don't refresh the browser.
So compatibility could be also be
What I did was
compatibility with
technically
other parts of the
stress testing and
product.
flow testing
So
is I copy pasted them.
if I were to put data in that's
So
not
definitely at a reset
numeric and it's expecting numeric data, how does that
box,
mess
you
it up?
lost the
And that might not
Sure.
be.
This
is
that
where I
might
would
be-
put mobile.
That might be a bug.
Yeah, mobile.
Yeah, this is where I would do my
Sure.
mobile versus desktop testing.
Yeah, because you could do different platforms. You
Mhm.
So I don't think I
So like the pair could even be platforms, then
That
your
might
mobile
be a bonus.
desktop, then with a mobile you have
Tablet.
iOS, Android.
an undesirable outcome.
What else do
okay.
we
So
think
flow
of
testing
here?
would be things like, I don't know what are some things you guys would come up with for flow testing? Just some-
that after choosing one of the samples, the
Okay, what are the top five
information
most
changes
common
and
browser
page
add-ons
opens up.
that people use?
Okay.
That could be like, does AdBlock prevent the visualizations from showing? I use AdBlock, so I might
I didn't think of that when
Does
the
it
first
require
time.
Flash?
freaking
Uh,
Flash. Oh my gosh!
Oof.
What else?
They even Adobe even renamed it to Animate.
Did they?
Yeah,
Yes.
the new version of Flash is just called Adobe Animate, but it's still Flash under the hood.
So yeah, this is pretty much it. And I got
Now you would spend like an hour or so doing a test strategy.
What's a flow-
And then-
flow example?
If you're working with a team, you're gonna have this much more fleshed out. You're gonna have nodes of subnodes of children.
yeah, it was like the one that
Build something.
Let me move over here.
We have two.
I don't need to move. Why am I moving?
also for
Okay.
HTSM.
So,
There's the
Let's say
product.
I didn't select anything, but
element
it didn't
section.
do anything. I might be like,
So
well,
this is a product outline mind maps that I made for
they
the
see something, they
application.
don't think it's broken.
And the difference between what we just did and the product outline is you're literally just talking about the features of the product. You're not talking about
Yeah,
what
so
you're
you
testing.
didn't change
You're
just
the
saying,
data
like,
we're selecting.
text
You
box,
just changed the
entry,
chart we wanted to see, and
copy
also,
paste ability.
what
Like you're not
you
actually
know,
talking about what you're going to
dimensions,
test. You're really just mapping out the product in a mind map
No,
format.
and
Yeah,
that's-
so this actually
So
wasn't
that's good.
for my
This is
testing.
gonna be
This
risk
is when
testing.
our team was
We don't have
working
to
on
keep going
designing the
Flow testing
product.
would be,
And
come
I
up with
built
ideas
this
to
to be a
keep doing
clear,
stuff, to try
all-in-one
and
piece
practice.
visualization
If I'm
of all of the
on a
things that we
form
were
that has
wanting
1,
to
2,
put
3,
here,
normally you do
including
one page,
things
like
like,
this, is there a back button?
where did
Can
I
I
put
click
it?
on the number 1, go back to number 1?
Oh,
then click
like
next,
under
and
the
then on
structure,
line number 3, now I've
that's where I
gone
have
down
what
to
kind,
2.
what
Do I lose
different,
data?
like
Stuff like
coding
that.
languages and technology and libraries that we would
This is
be
broken
using. And
because we need
I
to
originally
have
intended
numbers
to go
here
through
that we
here
have string.
and add like links to
So we
the
can talk about
documentation.
So-
Whoops.
All right, are you on? You on hip chat?
No,
This is gonna be more
I
like,
close all my chats
pretend
out.
I'm this guy.
How dare you.
Pretend I am a movie producer and I want to get this information out of here. So So let me try.
Do you want me to link you my?
I am a car.
I'm gonna make you presenter.
Like, how are we
Oh
doing?
no!
Yes.
Can I do that or?
Why
Oh,
would you
yeah.
do that? I can just give you this.
Let's just do that. I already sent it to you. So you,
I want
I want.
that scenario. Being creative about what your product is supposed to do, not just for the happy, like easy.
I'm gonna say horse. I need you to talk to it.
Maybe someone born.
Do you want to get some water?
Yeah, I will after I
Maybe something before 19.
make you presenter.
Probably. There's people alive that are.
Jasmine?
Mm.
All right.
So scenario testing, all right.
Way
So
to
then
go.
user testing, that's going to be.
It's funny. I was muted.
I'm still doing it. It's probably mine. Who knows? Ta-da, you're the presenter.
Product. It can also be something like if you have access issues, right? If I have users, if I have
Okay.
a manager versus a store clerk. Store
All right.
clerk probably wouldn't be able to change it. So,
We're gonna come together and spend the rest of the time, just about 15 minutes, just looking at the different mind maps, collaborating. You're looking at Jasmine's screen right now. I will fix the projector.
risk testing.
Let me
Let her talk to it. Oh man, it's that cable issue again.
That's
I-
going to be looking at.
Wow,
product
that's
as a whole,
updating very
finding
slowly.
risk,
Is it?
asking
Yeah.
questions
Okay.
about
It's the
how
ATT
long the
Wi-Fi.
project is.
I'm not on the HT Wi-Fi.
This I've never.
Oh, what are you on? Your hotspot or something? DTT?
GT team.
Something you should clean up.
So
Well, I think he wants us to.
Good enough.
Yeah, of course.
Remember context, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Jasmine's gonna talk about it. I'm gonna get some more.
So for our group, we went through everything and tried to go really quick and do the prioritization first. So function testing, things that the product can do. Connor specifically identifies that as things that are outside of acceptance criteria. And that one was a 2. Now, we only fleshed out things that were a 1 since we were working on pretty limited time for this. A 1 for this application was domain testing.
What perspective are you looking at the product from? A user, someone involved in development? Did you find like how you looked at the product? We sort of looked at it from like we're involved in the development.
Nope, we just kind of jumped in on this.
Okay.
We didn't do any sort of profiling or anything like that before we got started.
What you mean is like when you tested, did you look at it as if it is in the exact state that it's in now, or did you do it from like as if you were part of that process?
So fun fact, since I had actually already done an HTSM on this in a different class, and so had Connor, I did have extra knowledge about the application before this. We really should have
we were
broken that up.
acting as the testers on the product, I guess.
That's kind of what we
Like as the Scrum team tester, not just an external user.
Just the way that you approach functional testing, I wanted to understand what your perspective was.
So, functional testing is everything the product can do, not necessarily the acceptance criteria. So we reserve functional testing for everything outside of the claims, which is the acceptance criteria. So as a stakeholder, honestly, if I'm a client wanting any product, website, whatever, I don't necessarily care as much about what the product can do. I care about what I told you I needed to do, which is claims testing. So I care more about claims testing than functional testing. Functional is like above and beyond acceptance criteria.
So domain testing, we rated that as a 1. This is a data visualization app. Data is pretty important. How it handles the data, that's cool. So we went through and talked about some of the kinds of things that we would want to look for and test with this. How it handles special characters versus alphanumeric. What happens if you give it a null data field? The max number of rows, and columns. I'm really bad at typing, guys. Yeah, okay. The max number of columns, basically, if you think of this data like a spreadsheet, is there anything like that? I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Doug? Doug brought up minimum values for that as well, like what happens if you enter headers and no rows.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a really good one. Foreign character support, UTF-8. I know some people are super familiar with that. An unexpected delimiter. How do you handle that? Like, what happens if your data has a comma in it? We rated stress testing at a 3. We actually probably, I think, now should have
That's
rated
because
that
we
higher.
cheated and had already tested this, and we realized that like once you get to 1,000 lines, it just totally chokes.
Yeah, it actually in the FAQ they tell you
Like, don't do
that
that.
the max number of data is when your browser chokes.
Yeah, that's where we got to.
But basically told us that if the stakeholders don't care, we don't care. But
So flow testing. You guys went over what flow testing is in your group. The difference like between flow testing and scenario testing.
Well, we were getting scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sort of jump-started a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the difference between flow testing and scenario testing, this is one that these two get confused a whole lot because they're both kind of centered around how a user would act. But one of them is flow testing. You're literally trying to work the workflow just like a user. Users don't clear their cookies. They don't clear their browser cache. They don't close and reopen the tab probably when they get an error, or the app crashes. That's not how they do it. Maybe they refresh the page instead. So this is where you do a bunch of actions in a row with absolutely no resets, much like a user would. And then scenario testing, still focused around users, and that you're trying to think of the way your actual stakeholders or whoever are going to use the product. But these are discrete actions where you build out your set of steps. Like for a word processing thing, printing a document. That's a particular scenario. Printing it from a saved file versus... Yeah, sure, okay. I blanked. Thank you for that.
yeah,
So those are, discrete scenarios.
Role play.
I was just gonna say, like, whereas the flow would be like, I open Word, I type something, I go to print, I check the printer. That's the flow. The actual process of it printing wrong is the scenario, or the actual process of it printing right is the scenario.
But we gave flow testing a 2, and we wanted to give more priority on the specific scenario testing for this application. So these are some scenarios, like creating a data model of each type.
The first node is like 15 tests, so.
Um,
But you can summarize, like the thing we were talking about in our group was that this tells the PO that you're going to test all those. You don't necessarily have to write scripted, heavy test cases for every single one of them to prove to them that you're going to test it. The whole idea is like a very lightweight model to say, I'm going to do that. And then if I find anything from it, I'll let you know. But until then, I don't need to spend a whole lot of documentation overhead writing 20 cases with 10 steps each, right?
You hand it to the new tester. Here's how you get your context.
Yeah.
Create a model of each type.
yeah, download model in each file type, since it gives you the option to download them. Embed a model using the generated code. It gives you a little code block whenever you create a model to embed it on a web page. A model creation with too few variables set, like what happens when you try to save a file when you actually haven't built a model yet. Invalid data types as variables. The parameters on there like actually had acceptable data types. What happens if you put the wrong one in there? Claims testing. Validity of the data visualization. Is it accurate? Creation of valid files. Can you then open the files? Acceptance criteria. And items from the FAQ, since those are like publicly released things about how the developer said this should work. The FAQ is claims, even though it's not a specifications document. Marketing materials, support documentation, help documentation, all of that counts as stuff that could count as claims. Okay.
I think, even though we didn't talk about it, the product elements node mentions going over that stuff. Looking for any documentation that is going to give you that.
Yeah, and like support documentation, that includes stuff like, we were talking about workarounds that maybe support is telling your users currently, oh yeah, if when you need to do that very specific thing, here's the specific workaround to get it to do what you want. That's still now a publicly made claim that that's how your product works. Yeah. In this case, we don't really have access to real users. We rated user testing pretty low. User testing is supposed to focus on real users. We also don't really have access to like customer personas or profiles or anything like that. We just don't have the information we need to make this particularly useful. Risk testing, too. There's not a whole lot of risk in this application.
Yeah, like all the data is server side or client side,
yeah.
so there's no one's saving your. You put a social security number in there, no one's saving that.
But you can manually enter data, so you could put that data up and have a graphical presentation with it.
I guess
Yeah, you
visually
could.
while it's on your screen, yes.
That's a good point.
That's why it's a 2, not a 3.
You might need to say something like, any data that you put could be, if you post any data or any data out, don't put anything sensitive. It might be worth it.
Or like refresh your page before you, don't leave it up. Yeah.
Basic computer security.
That's again sort of on the user, but
Well, if someone's using it, for like looking at their banking, spending or something like that, you never know. It might be worth having some kind of.
Yeah, sure.
It's a question I would ask.
Just to protect yourself as the product maker.
Automatic checking. The one thing was looking for a tool to generate a bunch of data for us, especially if we're trying to hit like maxing out a lot of things for these fields. We probably don't want to generate all of that big data by hand. That would be a pain.
Okay. Let me give you the GoToMeeting, and then I want you all to present your quality criteria. Did y'all do quality criteria also? Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll have them do that side.
Cool.
That way we're dividing and conquering.
Does he have GoToMeeting?
I am. Oh, do you have the GoToMeeting app?
We could just plug into
It'll stop recording.
Oh, okay.
It'll download the first time you run it.
Save it and send it.
Or we can do that.
Yeah,
We can do that too.
See?
Let's keep it simple.
We do work in the technology industry.
That's like we were on a call once, and
Files between machines.
yeah, at my old company, we're on a call, and the CTO was like, "I don't know how to use screen share. How do you screen share?" We're like, "Oh, CTO doesn't know how to screen share." Chief Technical Officer. Not at this company, so thank goodness.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good.
No, it was
Well, to be fair, I mean,
we were waiting like 15 minutes to
we
wait for
use
the.
every single, between GoToMeeting and all the other video things they've got.
It's very nice of you, Brandon.
Well, sometimes
Where is it?
Yeah, that's true. We've all been there, yes. All right, yeah, if you just want to email it back or. Yeah, did you send it?
Getting there.
Okay, cool. Oh, I guess make me presenter again. Or I can make myself presenter.
Yeah, you own this show.
I was trying to pawn it off on you.
You guys ever meet James Bach?
Yes.
I have not met him in person, but I took a class from him. That's actually where this app came from. I took a rapid software testing applied class from him online, but he was like on a webinar with us and on the phone and we were talking.
In the 1980s, he lived in the same town I did.
Yeah?
We had a BBS, and we meet like once a month.
Really? That's awesome.
He was between, he'd been working for Apple, and then he'd been let go, and he went back to Apple.
Yeah. That's all. Yeah, he writes about that in his book. And
Yes.
now he's in Orcas Island. Born in Burlington. He was born in Vermont.
You know, well, his dad is Richard Bach of
Yeah.
Jonathan Livingston Seagull, so he's got a few dollars.
Few. Yeah. Yeah, and he's got his own, other than his own.
What he's earned on his own.
I don't know. I think he charges like $20K a day. It's ridiculous. So it's awesome. It's good.
I was about to say that the class I took was not cheap.
That's good though. He's earned it. All right. Did you? Yeah. There we go.
You met him,
Yes.
I've only met one half of it.
Oh, Michael, yeah. I'm going up to Orcas Island in May for a thing he's hosting. A cocktail
You're
bar.
going?
Yeah.
Nice.
Me and Brian are going.
What?
Yeah.
That's so not fair.
Yeah, I had to use the lion's share of savings.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
I couldn't afford it. They're holding a course up there that it's amazing, but I think it's like $2,000.
James and John Bacher.
$2,000 a minute or something.
Well,
Basically.
it's $2,000 for like a whole full weekend, but that's not including the airfare or your hotel.
I don't know how much you said.
Yeah, I'm splitting a bunch of stuff.
I
All
really
right.
wanted to go,
We're
but
gonna
I
have to
could
get a
not.
private plane to get
All right, I will put
there.
this up and let you guys talk to it. Hang on.
We can't see it from here.
Trying to get rid of this.
All right.
go. There we go. All right.
Wow, that is really tiny.
Talk about your quality criteria. Ready, go. Go
1,
team.
2, 1. No.
42.
Capability. How capable is it? And what it needs to do is in the end give you a visual representation. So it's pretty high on the list.
Mhm.
And we did. Brenda did have some insight onto when you wouldn't necessarily jump to a 1 on how capable it is, because if you really think about it, most of the time when you hit this, 1 is going to be what you're going to define for capability. And reliable, will it work well and resist failure? We gave that one a 2. Threw me off there.
Here we go.
It doesn't have to be completely reliable. It's a web app. It's free. If you followed the steps to get to the end of the workflow and it didn't give you the picture, you might just go back and retweak some things because it's all on the same page. You don't have to reload or anything like that. Usability, how easy is it to use for real users of the product? And it's not all, it's something that's highly necessary for them to get to the end of this. Everything needs to be presented in a step 1, 2, 3, and then the user will know to go back and tweak some things if they need to. We skipped over charisma, security, and scalability in relation to this. And went and gave compatibility a 2. Now this was one of them that we weren't going to rate so high, but then we're looking at from the idea of, the idea of the product is they were putting the product out there, and so you might want to make sure Chrome, Firefox, handheld devices, things like that. Since this is all a web app, it's not installed or anything, that it could show up on all those. And then performance, how speedy and responsive is it? We gave that one a 2 because it's still a web app. You know that there's going to be some lag probably from your connection, or if you did one of the things like we did and stress test it and copied and pasted until we got to some 140,000 rows and it crashed on us. Using something like this, you definitely understand performance is going to hit it, but it needs to be responsive enough to the user so that they don't think that it's already crashed on them.
Cool. Y'all wrote stuff out here. I didn't mean to not have y'all talk about that, but yeah, this is sort of what a test strategy would look like when you're done with it. I mean, you could spend more time on it, obviously flesh it out more. You don't want to spend, it's going to be contextual depending on the feature or the story you're working on, how much time you spend on it, right? Like if it's a 5-minute defect fix, I'm not going to write a product model or a test strategy, right? I'm just going to, it's a typo, I'm just going to go check it and I'll be done with it, right? There's not a lot of high value in creating this for a 5-minute defect fix. Now, if that's a 5-minute defect fix from the developer's point of view and it changes how 8 other features work, right? Then you might have a huge testing effort. We've all probably had that scenario where there's a tiny dev effort and a huge testing effort because what they changed affects 8 things, right? Or 10 different designs or whatever.
Had a 1-line CSS change that affected like 3 designs and 8. And it was like 8 to 10 palettes per design. Plus it also included like browser testing. And so despite the fact that it took the developer 5 minutes, it took us like 2 days.
I typically still do it for small stories, even if I'm finally populate like 3 in the field with a couple lines, just because like that exact example, there was a situation where it just arose a question in my mind. I asked the developer, I asked the backend lawyer, I said, well, if you make this change, are there any like hierarchical like things that get affected? And he kind of stopped for a second. He was like, I need to get back to you on that.
Yeah.
It turned out that like our story blew up, right? In the sense of there's a lot more we had to do. And I was really glad that I asked the question.
That's awesome. As a question opens up like a whole other can of worms. And yeah, sure, you might be increasing the team's effort, but I'd rather do that early on than wait until, it's production night. Did we think about this? That's too late. Like, we need to stop the release now and do all that work. So,
a really good tool for that is getting in on your developers' code reviews.
Yeah, code reviews.
Even if you don't code or don't know how, I don't code.
Yeah, still use
I'm absolutely no good at it.
Currently.
But
two dates.
I still look at it. And I do know enough to be able to understand file structures at the very least, and understand that, just like look at it and look at the files being shared between different things, or I can look at it and say, hey, so I see you calling this function. Can you do a search for me and tell me anywhere else that that's called?
And a lot of times they give tree.
There's a tool called Independ.
Yeah.
You can run at the end of a build. It builds this huge tree, and you can enter any function. You can say, give me this function. I'll tell you all the callers.
That's really cool.
And you can walk all the way out and say, oh, the user interface hits it here, 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 here.
Yeah, I bet
awesome.
there's like a super easy way to do it through something like IntelliJ or.
But that's still a handy tool.
That's really
That's
cool.
why I come to these things.
Yeah, there you go.
The fact that
It's called Independ. Okay.
It recreates it on build.
Is it proprietary or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, costs money.
Oh, yeah.
Well, a lot of times,
Sounds really awesome. Probably costs money.
a lot of times I don't have the context, like you said, like if I don't code or I didn't code it or I don't know the language, I'll still have them walk me through kind of what they did, because when I do that, I'll ask questions out of my ignorance that have again spurred things, and they'll have actually let me look at that and it does. So I think it's to be as nosy as possible while I'm still being polite.
Yeah. Also the hey, so can you explain this to me? Because right now, as far as I'm concerned, this is a magic box.
Yeah. Magic black box that I can't see into.
Yes. And so like I've had my developers literally draw me pictures on a whiteboard explaining how things work.
And then the more they say, the more questions you have. And they're like, oh.
And the more they talk through it as well, the more they're like, actually, there's probably a better way to do this.
Developers love to talk about coder too, by the way. Well, see, it's really fancy, actually.
Brian used to go ask Mark Gilcrease questions about his code, and he'd be like, hey, I noticed this weird thing happening. He's like, it's not doing that. And Brian would go back to his computer, and Mark would be like commit. Like, hey, it's not doing that on my box. Commit. Brian's like, oh, it's not doing it. Wait, what did you just do?
That's why knowing what Git history is.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute. There was a commit 2 seconds ago.
That was long before the days of Git at ClickMotive.
Yeah, you had to take their word for it. So, all right, guys, awesome. This is the whole point of this is to create sort of a lightweight way to tell your testing story. The idea with this was, if I were to ask you, what do you like better, writing test cases or creating this mind map? I think 9 out of 10 people would say this was easier and less painless, right? The test cases take a lot of diligence mentally, and that's not to say test cases aren't necessary. There are cases where, especially if you're doing like legal testing or medical device testing, and you have to have specific voltages, and you need that documented, right? A lot of that is necessary. And you may work in an environment that's regulated and they require it, and that's fine. But
have a conversation with your stakeholders about what testing artifacts are actually necessary. What kind of information do they really need? Which
ones are valuable to them? Like, if again, I can go read all the test cases and I get an idea of what you did specifically, but not what else you tried or what you explored or what, all this other stuff, right? Oh, domain testing, you tested all those data types, cool, right? So
Renee brought up a good point. The heuristic, as far as it goes, is really more useful. It's useful whenever you can do it, but it's more useful early on, right? Because don't do the traditional, quality thing and wait till the code's already written and, all right, I guess it's time to start testing and then use heuristic. You can't affect change in that way. So by being able to ask those questions early on and send those things up the chain, if you have a good question, enables you to. So something that he mentioned was maybe you could show this to your developers and things, and that's actually what we would try to do. I think you do that as well. Like we would base them.
I ask questions based off of this during grooming. Like before we even pull a story.
That's planning for Agile.
Well, no. It's not planning.
No, he doesn't work in Agile, so he needs to
have so basically, like before we say we're gonna start working on this story, there's a lot of where we talk about things and developers figure out how they want to implement it, and we really nail down what the scope of the story is. We might pull in experts from other teams, stuff like that, during these meetings. And so I use this a lot during those meetings.
Yeah, on that note, I'll share this out. This was a model I created for testers to know sort of what to think about during their sprint. And I did it in a 2-week cadence, but you might do 3-month cadence or whatever. But just exactly what Jasmine was saying, in sprint grooming, use models as models or anything that helps you think about stuff in different ways, right? So chicken scratch on a notebook piece of paper could be a model because it informs you of how to think, right? So use this as a litmus test for accepting certain stories. Obviously, use these models in sprint planning where you're with the team and you're pointing stuff out and you're figuring out what the effort's going to be. Because these models will turn, like Brandon said, it might turn a 3-point thing into a 3-week thing. So
For people who are listening, sprint is an agile term.
I think, yeah. So
Just a question. This.
Yeah.
So how would you test, or what we did? How would you document your testing? I know this would be a document saying, okay, this is my scope, what I'm testing. But then how do you prove, okay, I tested it, passed, it didn't pass?
This is the documentation. So I show this to a PO, and the PO goes, okay, change that 1 to a 3, change that 3 to a 1. That's not important. Get rid of that.
He's asking about pass-fail, though. So he's actually asking about test case documentation.
Because we traditionally, what we do is we have a spreadsheet of this case 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then criteria passed, not passed, not relevant, whatever, and then results, comments, whatever.
Right.
But that's more like, okay, you see what did pass, what did not pass. This is nice to see. It's more visual. The other one is more like, okay, you know, how many test cases passed, how many didn't pass.
You could always create a narrative at the end based off of what you can summarize from this and your history of going through the testing.
Yeah, so there's a 3-part testing story we haven't really talked about, and we're already over time. Maybe we could do a meetup about that testing story because it's not just having an artifact and saying I'm done. There's a story around talking about this, like she was saying. So
yeah, we should do one about the whole compelling story context, what that actually means.
Yeah, because this is really just honestly, this is not like I work in an environment here where test cases aren't mandated. The pass fail is not mandated, and this can end up being the full artifact we provide. So at the end of 2 weeks, when we do frequent releases and then maybe a big release at the end of 2 weeks, that could be the whole thing that we show.
Yeah, in our case, it's more like for, let's say you bring somebody new into the team, and at least he has a way of test, because our test case would be step 1. Step
right, do this, do that.
But this way, if you bring somebody new and say, okay, this is how we test, okay, how.
Right, but I would rather someone explore it with a strategy rather than me say, do this, do that, because then I'm not, I mean, maybe it works in your environment, but in our environment, I'm imposing steps onto that person. I'm telling them, do this. They're still going to do it their own way, right?
Not only that, but
it also depends what you're testing.
It's
right.
It does. Like I said, with a legal and a medical.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't your leaf nodes be equivalent to the line item in a
You could make the documentation that specific. You could basically build your mind map out so that you literally had a final node for every test case.
Can you export it to like a spreadsheet?
Not a spreadsheet, not those.
You can export from Xmind to Excel.
Really?
Yeah.
How does that?
Maybe that's not yours, but the other one was.
Maybe not MindMeister, but
you paid for one.
Hey, MindMeister can export to Xmind, and Xmind can export to Excel.
I have not explored all of the exporting options. I just can't. I personally cannot visualize a mind map. Maybe you can select just what level nodes.
You could always build the mind map out to the final node that you want to categorize it as, or give the brief note, and then off of that you could make a node that is the steps. And therefore, someone can still look at it without having the final steps visual, see the strategy, and then when they need to perform the steps, they go to that last final node that is just steps.
Or that heuristic could inform your test cases. If you have a place that test cases are very important, that can inform when you create your test cases. They can be traditional, or you can test documentation could be a test summary that walks through the narrative of what happened. I'm sure we could do a whole. But,
So I'll answer that specific question with this XMind if it'll open. But I sat with a team a few months ago here, an inventory team, and I did this exact process with them without prioritizing it. I just went through the product, and it was a specific user story. Not all that, all this, and this actually has specific cases, specific steps. So, for example, I had no competence on what I needed to type into the console to get certain log files. So I actually said, run this command. So like this is the order. I do this, then I do this, and then I run this command. But I'm not saying like you have to do this second and you have to do this third, because I want you to get here as an exploratory tester, and if you see something that's out of the norm or doesn't lead you to do this step, I want you to do something else.
Yeah, I guess it depends what you're testing. In our case, we test protocols. You have to follow them.
Yeah, there's a right answer. There's a right answer. So.
Well, I mean, also though, like there's no way to guarantee, even if you write super detailed steps, there's not necessarily a way to guarantee that everyone is going to do them the same. Anything down to like the timing on when they click on things could potentially cause a problem or catch a different error. So that's one of the things with test cases. They can be really good to have, but don't assume that just because you have a detailed test case that everyone that runs it is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, so Michael likes to talk about, don't think of pass fail, think of problem, no problem, right? Because I can have a car that's driving down the road, my engine light's not on, but there's smoke coming out of the hood. All right, the engine light's not on, right? Should I just be like, well, the engine light's not on, I'll keep driving?
Automated test.
Yeah.
Right. That's a green pass on an automated check. So, and vice versa. There could be a fail that's more just a timeout, right? Or, we didn't give the product long enough to respond. So it actually works. We just need to wait 5 more seconds. So Michael and James and others like to talk about, is there a problem or is there not a problem, rather than everything's green, I can move on. But in your case, test cases with that might be very necessary. However, when I brought on a new tester, I don't think I would throw that at him. I think I would talk to him more about the product, and I would have discussions with him, and I would say, go talk to subject matter experts on things and actually get in deep with learning about the product and come up with questions.
Oh yeah, you would have a solution description or something.
Right.
Then you're going to test them.
Yeah, but scripted test cases are honestly something that requires a lot of knowledge, a lot of skill to execute in a way that is not misleading. So.
Running a scripted test case when you have no knowledge of the product, you may miss something that's actually a glaring bug because you don't have context for how the product should work.
All right. Well, we're past time. I know I'm running over, keeping you guys. Thanks for coming. This GoToMeeting will be put on the Meetup group within a day or so, maybe tonight. And you can go online and watch the last months, whatever. Yes, last month. Thanks, y'all, for coming. Appreciate it. Tell your friends. Yeah, word of mouth. If you have a facility that can host this, let me know, and we'll do it at your office or wherever you've got. So.
If we're doing the compelling story next time, I know some other people that would really enjoy that.
All right. Well,
We should.
let's do it.
You should talk to the girls from Cowork. That's
Co-work?
Yeah, it's spelled with a K. It's a co-working space that's downtown.
Cool.
But it's
Nice to see you again, Brandon.
really awesome because it's literally right at St. Paul Station.